Hi friends, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ev and I like to talk about all things knitting, fiber related, spinning, and just what's going on in my yarn world. So today's episode is a knits and babbles, and that's when I talk about everything that I've casted on, casted off, where I'm at with my knits, and kind of just do a little bit of a roundup and keep you guys updated with all my fiber projects. Today we're gonna start off by what I'm wearing. I feel like I've been wearing this a couple videos in a row now, but this is my Camisole.9 by My Favorite Things knitwear. I knit this up last year. It took me a full year to finish because of the straps and the collar, and the fact that it was black yarn. I don't know, I needed the perfect light and the perfect mindset to do the straps and the collar, so that took really long. It's on very small needles, and I knit this in drop snored, so that is a wool, alpaca, and I think polyamide blend. It is technically a sock yarn, but it is a fingering weight yarn, and I had used this yarn for my Louvre sweater when I held it with a mohair, and it turned out beautifully. Alone, it is a little bit more prickly of a fiber, but honestly, like wearing it as a tank top, it feels really nice. I don't mind it. But if you are sensitive to very woolly knits, I wouldn't recommend this on skin, like at least on your chest area. But again, with the mohair, it is beautiful and I don't feel the prickles as much. So I don't know if that ties into that, but that is what I'm wearing today. Because we're currently April 19th, I'm gonna count this as a April, March knits and babbles. I'm not gonna be filming another one till May, simply because in the last week and a half of April, I'm not gonna finish anything. Maybe I will, but it's not gonna be that drastic from today. However, from the last time we caught up and I saw you guys, I can proudly say that I finished at least one knit, and that is my Traveler Cowl. So this is what it looks like. I don't think I've actually shown you guys properly what this cowl looks like. And I've been wearing it non-stop. It is perfect for the almost summer weather. It's not super warm, but it does keep the neck area kind of warm. So this was made up of 100% Targhee wool that I spun from 2 different braids of Sweet Georgia. This pattern came from Andrea Mowry. She has the Traveler Cowl, she has the Traveler Shawl, there's a Traveler hat, and I think the Traveler hoodie, which is either already released or might be coming out soon, which looks very interesting. I knit the second size, but because this is actually hand spun yarn, I was off gauge, so I knit to the measurements of the second size, because one thing that's really amazing about this pattern, and I don't know if all the Travelers are the same, because she knows that people are going to do this with hand spun yarn, she gives you the exact measurements to knit to. So even if you're off gauge, if you have a thicker yarn, thinner yarn, you can knit this pattern with whatever needles and yarn gauge that you want. You just need to make sure that you're within the final product measurement, because this pattern, you actually knit it in the flat. You start off on this corner right here, and then you just work back and forth doing increases and doing an I-cord finish all the way around. So you can kind of see the horizontal, you just work back and forth, and then you actually finish on this edge here with an I-cord finish as well. And then you can just, because you're gonna finish off the back, it's gonna be flat. And to connect the back, one side has an I-cord, the other side does not. So when you seam it together, you kind of wanna lay the un-I-cord seam, sorry, my shoulder cracked. You kind of wanna lay the un-I-corded seam under, kind of, and just sew them together so that you don't have, it kind of does a seamless look, which is very interesting. I had a lot of fun knitting this one up, just as much fun as I did spinning it. So this was from 2 different braids of Sweet Georgia yarn that I got at Christmas from a knitting event that I went at the yarn shop. Yeah, I picked up these 2 braids because it was Christmas and I wanted to give myself a little holiday gift. And I spun this on my Traveler wheel. This was the very first spin that I finished on my Traveler wheel. Now, a couple of you guys have messaged me and asked me exactly which braids I paired up. So I did find the names. So the first one it was Tapestry and Trail Runner. Salted caramel does look really pretty. But yeah, the reason why I felt like these two could work together super well is in the store side by side, one of them was a lot more purple and magenta and pink and orange, and the other one was more green with a little bit of blue and purple. But I noticed that the green and the purple in both of the braids was the same. It was the same. It's just, I guess, like different added colors. So that's why sometimes, like for example here, as I was spinning them up, because I didn't do anything fancy for my spin, I just took the braids and spun them as is. I didn't split them, do fractal, or I really didn't want to plan, like, because I was focusing more on using a treadle wheel for the first time. I didn't want to plan like the spin. I was like, this is just going to spin how it spins, and let me just focus on being used to spinning on a spinning wheel. So, like this row right here, it is both strands are magenta. And I think I have some green right here that it's the same green lined up on both braids. So there are moments where it's like blue and purple, green and an orangey green, but then some of the rows are actually like right here, this green, this is the same green. Both strands, for some weird reason, in my spin as I was plying them, ended up the exact same color, which I think is really cool and kind of helps make this more unified, but still kind of be very autumn, like floral color. So I really like this cowl, and this has actually been making me want to knit and spin up enough yarn for the traveler shawl, because I have, from this spin, I have this much yarn left. So this was enough yarn. This could have been enough yarn to knit a size up in my traveler cowl, but honestly, I don't think I would have wanted a size bigger. I think in the end, the size fits perfectly, because the bigger it is, the bigger around the neck it's gonna be. So then it would be even lower of a cowl, and then it would just be bigger. So I didn't have enough for the shawl. I think I was about 150 meters short or something like that. And yeah, I'm kind of left with this much yarn, so I might use this in some color work. I'm also thinking about potentially knitting up an emotional support chicken with all of my hand spun leftover yarns and seeing what that results in. Have kind of like a hand spun leftover emotional support chicken. That could be really fun. So that sadly was the only finished knit of the month. Then I have another nice important whip, which is my, what are these called? This is a sock from 52 Weeks of Socks. It is what is the sock? Okay, one second, guys. I'm gonna go find the book. It's right there. Oh, how did I forget it? I just had the name. Kaisla. So this is the Kaisla sock from 52 Weeks of Socks. I did finish one of them. I don't remember if last time in the last podcast I had shown you guys that I finished one of the socks. And now I, since then, started on the second sock. Why is it this here? I got to about doing the heel. So here's what happened. I knit this with jowl. Now, if you've knit Lang jowl socks, you know that inside the sock yarn there is like a mini bobbin for support yarn. It's like a support thread. It's a little kind of thicker, smaller yarn that you hold with it. So here you have both. One is the support, the thinner one, and then the thicker one is the yarn. So basically I put that in the top cuff, and I'm putting it in the heel and in my toe. But when I was knitting up the heel for the first time, I completely forgot about it, and I knit the entire heel. And my heel was thin compared to this sock that has that support thread in it. It's like a little bit thicker, reinforced, so that if I wear this in boots or shoes, it won't tear as easily. I won't get holes. So I ribbed back. And then I went to a knitting meetup, and I realized I had put my little bobbin with the support thread in another bag, so I didn't have it. So what I did is, this was sadly, because I left super last minute, this was the only project I had with me. I didn't know what else to do because I had nothing else to knit on and I didn't want to sit there for 2 hours. So what I did is I made a smaller bobbin of like a smaller ball of the same yarn, and I'm holding it 2 strands together. Now the thing is, because I'm holding it 2 strands together and the reinforcement thread is thicker, but it's not like, it adds thickness, it doesn't add 2 strands thicker. So now this heel is too thick compared to this one. But now that I'm home, I could just rip it back and just redo the heel. I think that's what I'm gonna do, so that they're exactly the same. Because the reason why I ripped back in the first place was because I didn't want one heel to be thicker than the other. Till I get the motivation to rip back this tiny heel that I have progressing and reknit it with the proper thread combination. It's just the 3rd time that I'm knitting the heel. It's gonna be fine. It's just like, I did this to myself. But essentially, I really like this sock. It is a super fun pattern. If you guys haven't checked it out, this is my 2nd time knitting this sock. I've knit a pair for my mom for Mother's Day. It was the very first sock that I knit from the 52 Weeks of Socks by Len. And this is the book. This is the 1st edition. There is a 2nd edition. And I'm pretty sure that the 2nd book, like volume 2, has more sizes, because this one, it's just 2 sizes. Every design, yeah, has size 1 and 2. I think that the volume 2 has 3 or 4 sizing per socks. So it is a little bit more inclusive if you have like smaller or bigger feet. I have a, what is my shoe size? 7.5, 8. I don't know what that is in European, and I'm always knitting the small sock. So that is just an example. If you have like much smaller feet, these patterns, I guess, might be a little bit big. I don't know, unless you like your socks to be a little bit loosey-goosey. But anyways, this should have been the 2nd finished knit. Also, my project bag for this one is a very fun one. It is actually the Turkish airline little bag that they give you. So when you go on the plane, they give you like a little bag like this, and it has like chapstick, little eye masks, little slippers, and what else does it have? Like a mini toothbrush and toothpaste, you know, like plain needs. But I actually really like this bag and like the colors, and it honestly is perfect for socks. So that's that. The next knit is one again that you guys have seen before, and I've been using this. This is like a bag for purses, like, you know, when you order a purse online and they ship it to you. So this project has just become so big, none of my project bags fit it, so I've been using this. And it is, of course, you can probably tell by the color, this is my Dagmar. And why is it inside? Oh, I tried it on, it's inside out. Okay, so this here is my Dagmar sweater and the zipper sweater. And I did knit this collar, the folded over collar. I haven't sewn it in and attached it because you need to do the double knit button band, and I'm assuming sew in the zipper, and then this will kind of like go over to hide that seam. So everything kind of gets attached at the same part, and I didn't want to do the double knit band for the zipper. I just didn't feel like it. Instead, I picked up stitches and started the sleeve. So the sleeve is super pretty. It also has the same diagram as the body with a little bit of a honeycomb, like 1 repeat, and then the diamond, and it's just a really fun knit to work up. The sleeve really doesn't have that many decreases. I think there's just 7 rounds of decreases. It is a massive sleeve. If you can see my arm in there right now, it's a massive, like super wide sleeve. So I'm really interested to see after blocking how much this is gonna grow. From memory, my swatch, which is right up there, it didn't grow too much. This yarn kind of did keep its shape really well. It is a little bit of a stiff yarn. It does create a stiff material, which is why I did go up in needle size. I'm actually knitting this with US 8, which is 5 millimeter. The pattern calls for US 7, which is 4.5 millimeters, I believe. So I am up a needle size. simply because the fabric was just way too thick. This is a worsted yarn, and that's what the pattern, no, this is an Aran yarn, and that's what the pattern calls for. I'm using Serrano by Deraruma in their color Merlot, so it's like a deep wine color. Hopefully you guys can see this, but honestly, it's been a pure joy to knit up. The collar is super interesting. The way that you picked it up is you pick up stitches, but as you pick up, you have another strand going. So it's kind of like we're working a reverse Judy's Magic Cast On. So normally Judy's Magic Cast On, you start off here and you cast on 2 needles to kind of get the seamless collar working so that it's like a folded collar without having a seam. Because we started like with the back yoke, and because you started the sweater down, for the collar to get that, it makes you work backwards. So basically you pick up stitches, and as you pick up stitches, that's why I have 2 sets of needles here. You have one set that has the stitches being picked up, and on the other set of needles, every time you pick up a stitch, you make a yarn over. So basically you're gonna leave that set of needle, like one of them is left here, and then you work up the rib so that at the end, when I'm done with the double knit and the zipper, I'm just gonna like knit these 2 together, and it's gonna close the seam. It's gonna close the collar. It is very interesting the way that she words it. It took me a while to get because it was worded, I don't know, it just took me a while to get. I had to try it like 2 or 3 times, and then I kept getting a different stitch count than what she was requesting. So I did have to do this 2 or 3 times, which is probably what, once I was done knitting, because it is 7 inches of ribbing, I was kind of like, I'm not ready for double knit, and I just picked up and started the sleeve. And then the warmer weather, so that's kind of also why the sweater is just taking me a little bit longer, and I don't know, instead I cast it on other knits. But anyways, I really can't wait to get this done. I want the sweater to be done because it is becoming huge. Like, this is a big knit, and I can't really take it around with me anymore. I can't take this out of the house because I need this. I need my iPad for the pattern because I'm highlighting every rose that I go by so that I don't lose track where I am in the graph. And on top of that, I need the skein. So like just this, if I'm folding it, even though I'm not folding it properly, this is already pretty huge. And then an iPad and extra yarn, like this project just becomes, I basically need like a second duffel bag just for this project, which is kind of insane, which kind of explains the giant purse bag for a project bag. But yeah, it's the first time I'm using this yarn, and so far I am not disappointed, and I'm super curious to see how it wears. Of course, that is going to be the big reveal. I feel like I should do a video where I talk about all the knits that I've knit, but kind of do like a review about how the yarn has lasted and would I reuse this yarn now that I've worn pieces, because I've been knitting for a couple years now. I have some pieces that are 2-3 years old. It would be good to kind of go over that, maybe. I don't know. Let me know if that would be interesting to you guys. The next knit that I'm working on is, I should get water. The next one that I'm working on is one that I recently casted on at the end of March. And it is one that, if you guys haven't checked out that video, I highly recommend you do. It is my Montreal travel video and all the yarns that I picked up. And one of those yarns was this one. So this is Laine Péché Mignon, and it is their tarot collection. The color is L'Empereur, which is like a very beautiful oil, deep kind of bluish green. It is very, very pretty. So this is a fingering yarn. It is 65% merino, 20% silk, and 15% yak. So this is the first time that I'm knitting with a yarn that has a yak combination. It feels really silky, very smooth, very soft, and it does kind of have like a little bit of a halo fuzz to it, which I'm assuming is the merino and the yak. But the silk kind of gives it like a shine that is really pretty. I picked it up because of the yak, and I was super curious to see how it would knit up. And this is the top that I'm currently knitting. This is a pattern by Irene Lin. This is my very first pattern by Irene Lin that I'm knitting, and it is the Lyra Tee. So I'm knitting the second size, because I only got 2 of these skeins, and the skein runs kind of a lot. Where's the meterage? It runs 400 meters, so that's 800 meters. And I think the first 2 sizes of the pattern fit exactly in that. I would have liked to knit a size 3, but I think a size 3 I think a size 3 required 1,000, and was it 1,000 meters? I think so. So I would have needed 1 more skein, and I don't have it. The store that I went to in Montreal only had these 2 in this color. They had different colors, but I really, really wanted this kind of blue color. So I'm knitting the second size. This should fit like it does in the photo, but I kind of wanted a bit more of an oversized cropped tee look, because this is a cropped pattern. And she does say if you want to have, some people did knit more like a t-shirt length, and she does say you're going to need more yarn, but I wanted just like a more squarey, looser cropped tee. But this should fit like the picture, hopefully, if I'm right. And so far I did count and I did hit gauge. I did knit a little bit of a, do I have it? No, I did make a swatch for this one, so you guys should all be proud of me. It's just not up on my swatch wall. I really like this one. It's a really fun knit to work up so far. So the way it is worked up is you do the collar, fold it. Here you do a little knit collar, fold it, and then seam it, and then start working short rows. And the shoulders are super interesting afterwards, is you kind of have like a little bit of a mini saddle shoulder, just like a little square, before starting the raglan increases for the regular size tee. So you're gonna work up increases only for the shoulder to get this like kind of triangle started and going, before doing increases for the shoulders, front and back, like a regular raglan, which is really interesting. I've never worked up a t-shirt this way. You then, at the same time, work up a twisted rib for the sleeves, which I find super pretty, especially in this kind of shiny color, this shiny yarn. It just really pops a lot more. So I'm really interested to see with the natural drape of this yarn, and once it is blocked, because if you've knit up twisted rib, you know that when you block it, it kind of just spreads out a little bit more than regular rib. I guess is the tension in the twist. On the back, it kind of looks like regular rib, but on the front, that's where you really get the kind of tension and twist and tightening of the rib. So I find this super pretty. And another cool thing about this one is you continuously, wow, it got dark, is you continuously work increases. Every row you're doing increases. I'm really not used to it in patterns, which is why it's getting wider and wider relatively quickly. And my cable is a little bit short, but if you know me, you know I like to knit on a shorter cable. It squishes the stitches together. Makes it really horrible to try on knits, but like knitting, speed knitting, it's so much faster. So yeah, so you work up increases every row, which is really interesting. And this is a relatively small, like it's fingering weight. So I am using US 4, which is 3.5 millimeter needles. I already have about 360 stitches here. So I think I need to get to 400 and something before breaking up for my sleeves. And all of this hasn't even really cracked that far into the very first skein. So I still have a lot to go. So I'm really excited. Hopefully this has been my kind of go-to right now because it is still relatively small. I can take it everywhere with me. And because I'm just doing increases and just kind of doing the same thing for the next, I think, I don't even know how long, I can do this while I talk to people. So it's been my go-to travel knitting for now. As for my last work in progress, I am finally casting on a pattern that I remember talking to you guys. I think it was in my plans. Was it in my color work video or was it in my plans for 2025? Did I make a plans for 2025 video? I don't even remember. I know I talked to you guys about this pattern before, and it is my very first time working up Intarsia. So this is where I'm at. So this is a project that I definitely cannot take anywhere with me because of all of the ends. You should have seen me when I was working up this section right here. It was black, white, black, white, black. So I had a skein for each section. At least right now I'm back down to 3. So I just have white, black, because I'm starting another circle, and white. But this one is getting very chaotic, and I'm trying to keep the labels. One way to organize myself is to keep the labels on the skein so that I can just like wrap it around, more or less organized, instead of unravel fully in the bag. So we'll see how far I get with that. I did see some people, when they do Intarsia or color work like this, they put their yarn in a Ziploc bag. I don't have small Ziploc bags right now. I just have the giant freezer ones, so I would need to get some. But basically, you keep each yarn in its own bag. It doesn't unravel, or if it unravels, it unravels in the bag. So this is a pattern from the Beatles, All You Knit Is Love. I got this book last fall, and I got this book specifically for this pattern. I knew that I was gonna knit this one because it was inspired by the original Beatles, I think 1960s movie. I used to watch that all the time with my family. It is just such like a childhood thing. So this is the sweater that I'm knitting up, and this is the Sea of Holes. So this is a pattern by Cecil Jeffrey. It is a skill level 3, and this is my very first Intarsia sweater. I've done colorwork knitting, like Fair Isle knitting, but I've never done Intarsia. Not only is it my first Intarsia, this is my first flat knit sweater, and on top of that, it's a bottom up knit sweater. So this is a very big project that I'm embarking on, one that I usually do top down, and I do in the round. I don't do seamed up sweaters. I just don't really like sewing too much, although I'm gonna try sewing, but that's a whole other video on another day. Yeah, this is just not my typical way to knit up sweaters. So I'm knitting up the smallest size because the sweater is actually like pretty loose and pretty wide. It's a really big like turtleneck, and I love that the last hole at the top is the turtleneck. I find that super cute to have a black turtleneck and then a white full-on sweater. I just really like the idea of having the yellow submarine pop out of one of the black holes. Now I am holding a highlighter because the pattern in the book was printed in a very inconvenient way. I've since realized that it was printed this way so that the sleeves would line up with the front, like the sleeves line up with the front and the back, so that when you seam it or knit it, you know where your connections are. But the problem is, so now what I'm knitting up here is the front panel. So this is bottom up, so it's gonna go like down there. The way that the chart is printed out in the book is you have chart front A and then chart front B. I keep having to go back and forth between the 2 pages, which is very inconvenient. And then at the bottom, it says, copy the chart on the following pages. Join the front charts together along the long unnumbered edges, so chart A is right to chart B. My idea was like, why didn't you just do this in the book? Why didn't you just put chart A and chart B next to each other? I tried to scan this and get them to line up. Then I was having tech issues, of course I was. And in the end, I just resorted to doing the one thing that I don't like doing at all. I never write in my books. I just lost it and just started highlighting directly in the book. I don't care. I don't think I'm gonna be knitting this one more than once. This is like a dream sweater of mine. Unless I knit this for someone else, I am just using a highlighter, so I technically could go over it with another marker, darker one later on, and just go darker and darker till I don't see this pattern anymore. The reason that made me highlight it is because I didn't think about this. So I'm just gonna show you one chart, and I hope I don't get in trouble. But the line, the grid for the colorwork is in black. The dots, the holes are in black. So basically, anytime you get to a hole, it's just pitch black. You can't see the graph. So unless I'm like highlighting every line where I'm going at, I can't count how many stitches. Like I need to count the white ones that I've done the previous row, and that's kind of how I've been doing it. So I said, screw it, I'm highlighting the book, and I've been writing in it, crossing off in pencil each row I do, but then just fully highlighting each row I do so I know where I'm at. So I'm vandalizing my book, but at the same time, this is mine. I just basically lost its resale value, which I wasn't gonna sell it. It's just, I don't know, I like to keep my books clean. I know some people really like writing in their books, or like if they read something, they'll like, even like storybooks, they'll highlight it right in the margins. I don't know. I just would rather have a notebook with all the notes and keep my book in good condition. I don't know what it is. But yeah, so this is my Sea of Holes sweater. I am just at the part where on the front you start the yellow submarine. So I'm gonna have to cake up my yarn for it. Now that's gonna be some hand-dyed yarns that I dyed myself over a year ago. We can talk about that next month, where I will have knit it up and I will show you guys all the colors that I'm using. I don't have them, they're not caked up yet. And what I'm using for the main colors, the black and the white, is Drops Charisma. So this is, it's 100% wool. It is a DK weight yarn. This is the second time that I'm using this yarn. I used it in my Moby sweater alongside with a mohair. But for this one, I just kind of wanted to see how it would knit up on its own, because I really like my Moby sweater. And I didn't want the sweater, it's going to be crazy enough as it is. I didn't want it to have fuzz on top of it. I kind of just wanted a wool sweater. So I just decided to go with the yarn alone and not pair it with a mohair. Even though I know mohair, it would also help with the pilling, because this is, or felting, because this is just wool. So this sweater, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But so far so good. I really like knitting it. I really like the yarn. Other than the fact that I have to highlight the book and turn the page, it's been really fun. Every time I highlight, like, because it's like actually not just on a tablet, I feel like I'm progressing so much. This was what I knit in like a day and a half. Like, this is not that much. It is like back and forth flat knitting. So the purl rows do take me a little bit longer, as I'm sure most of you guys find with purl knitting, but I don't know. It's really fun, and color work is always fun because it seems like you're getting through so much, just because like just finishing the first hole, I was like, wow, this row of holes is done. And I do remember saying that this would be my April project, so I'm really glad that it is officially on the needles, even if it's more the end of April. So now we can go into hand spinning. So hopefully by now you will have seen, or maybe skipped through, my Fibre of the Month Fibre study from March. And this month, even though it was really late, I think I submitted it in April, this was Polypay. So this is the yarn, and this is how much I ended up spinning up. This resulted in probably my shortest spin so far, which is really, really weird. I still don't know why. I have, I think, 181 meters. In the past months, I've had almost 200 meters plus. I think my, from memory, Targhee was 240 meters. It was a 3-plied yarn, same weight as this one, like yarn thickness, but for this one I just have 180 meters. Like, I don't know what happened. So I did comment that in that video, and some of you guys in the comment section wrote, oh, it's because you 2-plied the Targhee. But no, it was also a 3-ply. Like, I don't know what happened and how this one ended up. I think it's just denser. I think I didn't space out or air out my yarn enough. This yarn feels a lot, like the individual wraps feel a lot fuller. The Targhee, it looks full, but then you can squish it really well. Whereas this one feels like a very dense, I think that's the difference. I think it's like really well packed yarn. Even though it's the same 3-ply, it ended up resulting in the same yarn weight. I think that's kind of might have been the difference, which is why I really do not have enough. Something else that happened with this one is, for some reason, one of my bobbins ended up finishing a lot earlier than the other two when I was 3-plying. So what I ended up doing was, just for fun, I made a 2-ply mini skein. And since then I have knit it up, and this is the 2-ply knit. This yarn would have worked as a 2-ply as well. It is a little bit sparse in some areas, like right here. I actually really like Polypay, and this Fibre study made me realize that Polypay, I probably prefer it over Targhee. It just has a little bit more fanciness to it, and it could be because Polypay was a breed that came from Targhee, but it also came from 3 other sheep. I think it was Finch sheep, was it Dorset, and Rambouillet. Were those the 3 sheeps? I think those were the 3 other sheeps. So it took all the best characteristics of those 4 sheeps and created this beautiful, stunning white wool. Wool was a lot funner to spin up than the turkey, and the turkey was probably one of my favorites so far, which is why I did my cowl in turkey, because I really, really enjoyed it. So now if I ever stumble upon Polypay anywhere, I might buy more because it was really fun, and I want you guys to try it too. Hopefully in the fiber study, we will pass Dorset, what was it? Dorset, Finn, and Rambouillet. I think it was those 3. Hopefully those ones will come up in the fiber study, and then I can kind of add on, like, see which part from them create the Polypay. Because yeah, again, the only one I had spun was turkey, so that was my only reference. It was very different from the Shetland, which was February's spin of the month. Spinning wise, last month was also Fibre West, which is a yarn convention here in Vancouver. I think that was the last video I uploaded before this one. So you guys might remember I had got a mini Nugget from Melly Knits, and I have since then spun it up. This is Cameo. It is Merino 22 microns from Apple Creek Merinos, and it was blended with 15% cashmere. So this is the mini skein. I think this is like 5 grams, maybe 10 grams. It's really not a lot. It took me maybe half an hour to spin, and plying was like super quick. I plied it on my e-spinner. Honestly, this is such a pretty color, and it resulted in a really lovely squishy yarn. I haven't washed it yet, so this is just like right off the bobbin, and I haven't checked my like ply thickness. This was kind of just to see if I did enjoy spinning merino, and I did, but there was a little bit of stickiness to this wool. More like, you know when you have a Velcro? I don't know, it's like sticky, but like the Velcro sticks together, but it kind of has like a little, I don't know what that sensation is. This kind of had that. So I did enjoy spinning it. Now I don't know if that's what the cashmere spins like, or if that's the merino's fault. I guess I would need to spin cashmere on its own to know. Or spin more merino. I do really like the feeling of this yarn. It feels really, really nice, and I'm sure this would be a beautiful knit. I could use this in my emotional support chicken, my hand spun one, or use this in like a color work. It really isn't that much yarn, but yeah, it was a really fun spin. I just don't know so far out of all the fibers that I've spun if this is my favorite one. It did feel luxurious though, so I do praise the cashmere for that, and I do like really enjoy this yarn. It definitely is one I'm gonna try both again for sure. I'm just being honest with you guys, I don't know that this is particularly my like to die for favorite spin that I've done. So that was spin number 2. And then for spin number 3 of the month, I have currently started another spin on my traveler wheel, another bigger spin, and this is so far how much I have spun up. So far I did 2 bobbins of, this is West Coast Color. It is Denonia by John Arbon Textiles. So John Arbon Textile is from England, I believe. I'm not 100% sure where. This is Devon wool, and if I remember correctly, Devon wool is like a mixed breed with BFL. Was it Blueface? That is Blueface Lancaster, right? BFL? Yeah. So it is that. I'm going to put the description right here of exactly what the fiber is, but I picked this up at Fibre West, not this year, but the year prior, and I was honestly too scared to spin this one. I get this thing when I get wool, I have like this weird pressure that I need to do something with it. Something needs to become of this wool. And it's like a pressure on myself that if I don't spin it the proper way, it's gonna go to waste because I'm not gonna have like the proper yarn for the proper project. So a lot of the time, these rovings that I buy kind of just sit there till I get that perfect project idea. Hence the cowl, best example. I knew exactly once I saw the cowl and once I saw this yarn that the 2 plies would work really well together, and that is what this was meant to be. Going to Fibre West kind of gave me the stress on the newer rovings that I bought, and this one now kind of just became for fun again, and that is why I decided to spin it up, because I don't necessarily have a project for this. I'm still not sure if I'm going to be doing a 2-ply or a 3-ply. I think I might do a 2-ply. I did ask you guys over on Instagram, and the majority of you voted for a 3-ply because of the way, I think I have my sample right there. By the way, I had 3 braids of this, and these braids are 100 grams. They were $15, the 100 gram braid. So this one here is the 3-ply, and this one here is the 2-ply. So the 2-ply is, of course, a little bit thinner and a little bit more flat. The 3-ply is obviously more rounder of a yarn, because the more plies you add, the rounder the yarn becomes. This yarn doesn't have much stretch to it. It is pretty drapey, so it is like, there's not a lot of bounce. So this fiber does have a pretty long staple length already, so it kind of is like with the long wools, it doesn't really have much bounce. It is what it is. I don't have to add much twist, and it holds itself relatively well. So maybe like with my Target, I could do a 2-ply. I would like to have as much yarn as possible come out. So of course, if I do a 2-ply, that leaves me with more yardage than if I do a 3-ply, obviously. This is the last braid. I've already spun up the first 2 braids, so I just have 100 grams to go. So I still have 1 mini bobbin to go, and I might have to start plying before I finish the spin, because 1 braid fills up more than 1 bobbin. I also should really buy more of these bobbins, because I actually love my Traveler. So this is the second full spin that I'm doing on my Traveler. Oh my God, I love it. It's so peaceful and just treadling. I don't know what I was so scared about. I do love my e-spinner. It is a speed beast, and it makes plying super easy. It's making this fiber study very, very fun, and I basically can just focus on how I'm drafting and paying attention to that, instead of trying to focus on treadling and then the speed, and like, it's making me study more the yarn and how I feel working it up. The study just becomes about the yarn with my e-spinner. But treadling, I don't know why I was so scared. I think it's just because everybody says that it is really hard. It's not hard at all, unless you have like an injury or treadling. You don't have room for a wheel. I don't know. My apartment's really small, and I have a small, like the Traveler's relatively small. I feel like it just adds an extra magic to the whole hand spinning process, which is already really magical in my eyes. I don't know. It's just so relaxing. I love it. There's just something so zen. I love knitting and hand spinning. I don't know which one I love more at this point. They're just together, and I'm so glad that I found this hobby and this passion, because I've never felt this passionate about anything in my life, and that is a big statement. But I just love wool. I just love yarn and knitting and discovering new sheeps and new breeds and new fiber like crafts, and why I only discovered it like 4 years ago. But I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to have discovered it, and this is turning into some very cheesy moment, so I'm just gonna take back and sit, and yeah. So hopefully that wasn't too cringy and too cheesy of a love bomb of yarn from me, but I don't know, I'm just really happy to be here. All that to say, that is kind of what I'm working on right now. I did start my April fiber study because the March one ran a little late. I feel like this one might be a little bit late too, so that means we'll need to catch up in May, but that's okay. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys liked hanging out with me, because I love hanging out with you and having you guys enter my little chaos woolly brain, and can't wait to see you guys in the next one. So have a lovely, beautiful day. Happy Easter, because it is Easter weekend, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.